This meditative reading of John's Gospel that we hear tonight draws out some actions that marked Jesus' last night with his friends. Ordinary, everyday actions, things like washing and serving and leaving, to name a few. These are things that we do all the time without giving them much thought. Think about it, just in the past week or so, how many dishes or clothes have we washed? How many meals have we prepared and served for ourselves or for somebody else? How many times have we said, "I love you" to someone as we're leaving the house or finishing up a call? It's how we do these ordinary things that I want to think about for a moment. We can do them in a way that is remote or distant, kind of checked out, or we can do them in a way that is filled with attentiveness and care, a way that can bring blessing to those around us. I want to tell you about my friend Sylvia. I first met her many years ago when I was fresh out of university, looking to do a year of service. I went to live at a community called L'Arche with people with intellectual disabilities. Sylvia was just 12 years old when we met. She was petite in stature, so she looked quite young. She didn't have any family. She was different from anyone I had ever known. She didn't speak with words. Her personality, a wonderful mix of qualities, came through in gestures and presence. On the one hand, she was stoic and resilient, self-contained. She kept her distance, literally and figuratively. In any given room, she would find her way to a corner. When you went for a walk with her, she would keep to the other side of the sidewalk. She usually kept her head down, and she didn't make direct eye contact. Sometimes you'd catch her kind of looking at you sideways, but mostly she seemed to be looking at something else all the time. And yet, once she got to know you, you got glimpses of her brightness, her playfulness, her affection. Every now and again, she'd just reach across and take your hand when you were walking. Or she'd unexpectedly just drop down into your lap when you were sitting on the couch. Maybe she'd reach out at the dinner table and pull her head close to yours so your foreheads were touching. By the time Holy Week rolled around, I'd been living with Sylvia for about 6 months, sharing life in a home with about 8 young people, some with disabilities, some without. Day in and day out, we went through the motions of daily life together, cooking and washing up, getting in and out of the bath, getting ready for school and out the door in the morning, and in the evening, settling in and hanging out. And somewhere in and through all of these daily actions, deep friendships had begun to take root. I was told that there would be a foot washing service on Maundy Thursday in the community. And I'd never participated in one of those, and I didn't really know how it would work. But I thought, yes, washing feet. That's what we do when we help someone with a bath every day. I took my seat in a little circle of chairs in the chapel along with my housemates, and everyone participated, some with a little help from friends. You washed the feet of the person next to you, and then they thanked you with a word of blessing, and so on, all around the circle. And I remember Sylvia, whose feet I had washed every day in her bath. When she crouched down in front of me with an assistant, and she put her hand on the jug of water, and she poured the water over my feet. And then she looked me right in the eye. It was a delightful reversal of roles. She was asking me to trust her to look after me and to receive her care. I'm not sure I really understood it at the time, but if I was still under the impression that I was the helper or that I was the one in charge, Sylvia was nudging me to consider that our friendship was about something much deeper than tasks or roles, and that I needed her just as much as she needed me. It was surprising. It was a little disorienting. But there was something so real and so true about the way that she blessed me in that moment. Sometimes actions run deeper than words. In tonight's gospel, we hear about Jesus showing up for his friends in an unusual way as he gets up from the table, wraps a towel around his waist, kneels down on the floor, pours water into a basin, and washes their feet. And we can only imagine how startling this must have been for them to have their teacher, whom they admired and respected, doing this humble work that only servants would have done. How strange that role reversal must have felt in Jesus' time, in a culture when social roles were so strictly defined. If you were a wealthy patron, you called the shots for your clients. If you were a client, you deferred to the patron's wishes. If you were a master, you commanded your slave. And if you were a slave, you obeyed your master. If somebody stepped out of their role, they would be dishonored, and so would everyone around them. Your very identity depended on you keeping these roles intact. I suspect all of the disciples had their questions, but it's just Peter who says it out loud. Lord, what are you doing? Washing my feet? Peter, who surely thought of himself as very useful to Jesus. We remember that Peter and his brother Andrew were among the first disciples that Jesus had called. Peter, who thought of himself as Jesus' rock and his right-hand man. But in this moment, the tables are turned. And I imagine Jesus looking him right in the eye and saying, Peter, you might not know it now, but you need to be washed. And I wonder what it felt like for Peter to receive that incredible expression of care from Jesus, conveyed through the simplest of gestures, washing and drying his feet. He might not have understood it in the moment, but Jesus was nudging Peter to consider that their relationship ran deeper than any task or role that Peter might have prided himself on. Sometimes actions run deeper than words. Tonight, Jesus, gracious and humble, shows us how to infuse ordinary actions with great intention and love. And he wants us to do the same. He tells his friends and all of us, I have set you an example that you should do as I have done to you. And if you know these things, you are blessed if you do them. This blessing wasn't just for a few people in an upper room a long time ago. As people who are learning to follow Jesus now, here, we participate in this blessing through our words and our actions, whenever and wherever we show up for one another with a listening heart and an attentive spirit. And what's more, this blessing extends to each one of us tonight, here and now, in all our giftedness and all our neediness. It runs deeper than anything we can do to earn it, wider than anything we can do to deny it, and farther than anything we can do to escape it. I wonder, where is it that we yearn for God's blessing tonight? What relationship needs a dose of grace? What work cries out for inspiration? What space in our heart longs for healing? I want to close with these words by poet Jan Richardson, and I invite us to hear them as Jesus' blessing spoken directly to each one of us here tonight. She writes, "As if you could stop this blessing from washing over you, as if you could change the course by which this blessing flows, as if you could control how it pours over you, unbidden, unsought, unasked, yet startling in the way it matches the need you did not know you had."